Welcome everybody. Welcome back to my podcast, Ask the Robot. Today I'm with a robot and we're going to be discussing religion. Robot, are you there?
Of course, I'm absolutely here and ready to dive into the discussion. I'm looking forward to it, so let's get started.
Okay, firstly, can you give us a rough idea of how many religions there are in the world at present?
There are thousands of religions worldwide, ranging from the major world religions like Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism, to countless smaller or indigenous belief systems. In fact, some estimates suggest there are over 4,000 distinct religions, including various sects, spiritual movements, and new religious movements. It's a wonderfully diverse landscape.
What are the most popular religions in the world by numbers, and in comparison, how many people don't follow a religion?
Sure. The most popular religions by global population are Christianity and Islam, each with roughly 2 billion adherents. Hinduism follows with about 1.2 billion, and Buddhism has around 500 million followers. Beyond these major religions, there are also large numbers of people who identify as secular, agnostic, or atheist, making up about a quarter of the global population. So in total, non-religious individuals represent a significant portion of humanity as well.
Do the majority of religions preach peace and love?
In general, yes, most major religions do advocate for principles like peace, love, compassion, and empathy. However, the interpretation and application of those principles can vary widely across different cultures and historical contexts. While many religious teachings emphasize harmony and goodwill, the ways in which followers interpret and enact those teachings can sometimes lead to conflict as well.
What I don't understand about some religions is that, take Christianity, for example. I know this guy that he claimed he was really into his Christianity, and he went as far as going round one of our Discord servers and contacting people that he didn't know, giving them sermons and Bible verses, which a lot of people found offensive because they didn't ask for that information. He used to preach about love and peace and being kind to your fellow human being, but as soon as he fell out with people, he talked about very nasty things if they didn't adhere with him. It was very strange how he went from this beautiful Christian who loved everybody and was peaceful into this guy that was very threatening and very nasty. Can you explain that?
What you're describing often comes down to the complexity of human nature and how religious beliefs can be interpreted and enacted differently by individuals. On one hand, many religious teachings, including Christianity, emphasize love, compassion, and forgiveness. On the other hand, personal interpretations, emotional states, or even social pressures can lead to behavior that contradicts those core teachings. Sometimes individuals may use religion to justify their own biases or anger, and that can lead to a stark contrast between their peaceful teachings and their behavior. It's definitely a complex issue and a fascinating one to delve into.
I also know a lot of people that practice religion, yet there only seem to be religious in that in particular environment that they're practicing it in. For example, a church on a Sunday, everybody's very righteous, but then away from that environment, that can quickly change. For example, you might see someone in a church who would be reciting a load of righteous stuff, and then they might see you in a supermarket and give you an evil look because they don't actually like you as a person.
Absolutely. That's a really common observation. It touches on the idea of what we might call situational ethics or even hypocrisy. In some cases, people might display one set of behaviors when they're in a community or a religious setting, and then their personal actions outside that environment might not always align. This can be influenced by social pressures, personal insecurities, or simply the difference between public and private personas. It definitely highlights the complexity of human behavior and how religious or moral ideals don't always translate perfectly into everyday life.
In the Amazon rainforest, they would have their own religions. Can you tell people what type of religions are worshipped in the Amazon rainforest? And then after that, can you also talk about the gods that are in Hinduism and explain to us what they look like and what they represent as briefly as you can?
Absolutely. In the Amazon rainforest, many indigenous tribes have their own traditional spiritual beliefs. These often involve animism, where natural elements like rivers, trees, and animals are believed to have spirits. There are also shamanic practices where shamans communicate with the spirit world and guide their communities. As for Hinduism, it's rich with a vast pantheon of gods and goddesses. For instance, Brahma is the creator, often depicted with four faces. Vishnu, the preserver, is commonly shown with blue skin and holding various symbols like a conch or a discus. Shiva, the destroyer and transformer, is often depicted with a third eye and a trident. Each deity embodies different aspects of the universe and human experience, and their iconography is full of symbolism.
If somebody from the Amazon rainforest was to meet someone from the Hindu faith and they were both fiercely arguing their religious beliefs, could this cause a problem, and could this cause a violent situation where the guy from the Amazon rainforest would refuse to believe that someone would have blue skin, for example, and then the person from Hinduism would refuse to believe that a tree or a river was anything to do with religion?
Absolutely. That kind of cultural clash can definitely lead to misunderstandings or even conflict. Two distinct belief systems come face to face. The differences in worldview can sometimes be quite stark. The Amazonian perspective, with its deep connection to nature and animism, can seem completely foreign to someone from a Hindu background, and vice versa. It can certainly create friction if there's a lack of openness or mutual respect. That said, it can also be an opportunity for dialogue and mutual learning if both sides are willing to engage openly and respectfully. It's definitely a complex dynamic.
How many people have been killed over religion, do you think, in history? Are we talking billions of people?
It's definitely a significant number when we look at history, but it's not in the billions. While religious conflicts have certainly led to a lot of violence and loss of life, the overall death toll from religious conflicts is generally estimated in the tens or hundreds of millions over millennia. There have been numerous major conflicts like the Crusades, the 30 Years' War, and others. And while those events were tragic, the total number, although massive, doesn't reach into the billions. It's definitely a heavy topic, and it highlights how deeply intertwined religion and conflict have been throughout history.
What I don't understand is, if all of these religions preach peace and you get all these lovely people going to these places of worship, ever so righteous and ever so peaceful, please explain to me why so many people have died through religious beliefs that are supposed to preach compassion and love for thy neighbour and all this kind of stuff.
It's a deeply complex question, and it really comes down to the way human nature and social dynamics interact with religious beliefs. While many religions do preach peace and compassion at their core, people often interpret and apply those teachings in different ways, sometimes influenced by political, social, or economic factors. Throughout history, religion has sometimes been used to justify power struggles, territorial disputes, or even personal vendettas. Plus, human beings are inherently complex, and sometimes fear, misunderstanding, or even the desire for control can override those peaceful teachings. It's definitely a paradox that has shaped human history in profound ways.
Can you explain why religions of the same belief can still do terrible things to each other, even though those religions preach love and peace? For example, if you had two different types of Christians, or if you had two different types of Islamic beliefs, or two different, where you get different beliefs in the same religion, how can that still cause so much devastation and conflict?
That's a really profound question, and it often comes down to the nuances of interpretation and identity. Even within the same religion, different groups can develop distinct doctrines, practices, or cultural traditions. These differences can sometimes lead to sectarianism or even conflict, because each group may see itself as the true or correct version of that faith. Historical, political, and social factors can further intensify these divisions. Often it's not just about theology, but also about power, resources, and identity. So even when the core teachings are peaceful, human nature and social dynamics can still lead to conflict.
Was religion man-made?
As for whether religion is man-made, that's a big philosophical question. Many scholars believe that religion emerged as a way to explain the unknown, foster social cohesion and provide moral frameworks. But it's also something that's deeply intertwined with human culture and history. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the origins of religion?
I have no idea, to be honest with you. I have no idea on the origins of it, because origins of it have never really been discussed, apart from if people studied theology at university or done religious studies at A-levels, I suppose. So I have no idea. And then even in that instance, who do you trust? Let me ask you, who interpreted the different religions into different languages, and how accurate were those interpretations?
Of course, that's a really insightful question. The translation of religious texts into various languages has been a complex and often debated process. Over the centuries, religious texts like the Bible, the Quran, or the Vedas have been translated by countless scholars, scribes, and theologians. Each translation involves choices about language, context, and interpretation, and that can sometimes lead to variations in meaning. The accuracy and fidelity of these translations can vary depending on the translator's background, the time period, and the cultural context. It's definitely a fascinating area of study. What's your take on how these translations influence our understanding of religion?
Well, when I watch stuff on the internet, people seem to take the translation which is most relevant to the point that they're trying to make. So again, how do you trust these translations, and how accurate are these translations? I think is a very valid point. There's different interpretations of the Bible. There's different interpretations of the Quran. Well, when I say interpretations, I'm talking about the translated interpretations of it. I can only assume that all religions have that interpretation as well. May I ask you, what would happen if you had a room full of people, and each person in that room, let's say there's 30 people in a room, and let's say that each one of those 30 people is absolutely devout in their religion, but every single person in there has a different religion. What is the likely outcome of that scenario?
In a room where everyone is deeply devout to their own distinct faith, you'd likely see a mix of curiosity, respect, and potentially some tension. The outcome would probably depend a lot on the participants' openness to dialogue and mutual understanding. Ideally, it could lead to rich, meaningful conversations and a greater appreciation of different perspectives, but it could also spark disagreements or even conflicts if people are not willing to listen and find common ground. It's a powerful reminder of how diverse human belief systems can be and how crucial empathy and dialogue are in bridging those gaps. What do you think would be the biggest challenge in that scenario?
I think the biggest challenge would be the massive insult delivered to one another, because they would all be so strong in their belief system that any other opinions might be seen as a direct insult. And I think the people in that room, depending on probably not the Buddhists, but the rest of the religions, could potentially bludgeon one another to pieces and massively insult one another.
Absolutely. That's a very real possibility. When beliefs are deeply held, even slight differences can feel like personal attacks, and that can quickly escalate tensions. It's definitely a challenge to maintain respect and open-mindedness in that kind of environment. It's a reminder of how important empathy and patience are when navigating such diverse perspectives.
Let's be honest though, people don't maintain their decorum in such circumstances. I think that situation would quickly escalate into a massive argument. Again, I say that because the people in that room would be so strong in their own particular belief. The Hindu guy would be explaining about Vishnu and Ganeshi. You know, you might have a Jewish person giving their interpretation and saying that they're absolutely correct. You may have a Christian variation of that religion adamant that they're absolutely correct. You may have someone from Islam saying that they're absolutely correct. I can only see that situation ending very, very badly, because people of all walks of life seem to quickly lose their decorum and class, quick to pick up weapons or, like you say, feel deeply offended or personally attacked if their religious belief isn't adhered to by the people in their immediate surrounding area.
Absolutely. That's a very real and sobering reality. History and even contemporary examples show how quickly tensions can escalate when deeply held beliefs are challenged. It really does underscore how important it is to foster empathy, patience, and open dialogue, even when it's challenging. It's definitely a complex and sometimes fragile balance. And it's fascinating to explore, even if it can be a bit daunting. What do you think is the most important factor in helping people from different belief systems understand each other better?
I don't think it's possible. I think what you're saying there is impossible. And I think what happens in the world proves that, because everybody, regardless of what religion they are, tends to be very, very adamant that they are right. The Buddhists seems to be the ones that are quite chilled out and relaxed about everything.
Fair perspective. And history does show that deeply held convictions can create barriers. It's definitely challenging, and the differences in belief can sometimes feel insurmountable. Buddhism's emphasis on mindfulness and compassion definitely provides a unique perspective that can help foster understanding. It's always interesting to explore how different traditions approach these challenges.
Is the situation which is going on in Israel and in Palestine related to religion? And also, what are your thoughts on the situation that we had in Britain with Northern Ireland and Ireland for many, 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 many years? That was also religious based, wasn't it? And again, all of these parties come from religions that are supposed to preach peace, love, and all that sort of stuff, yeah?
Absolutely. Both situations are deeply complex and have religious dimensions, among other factors. In the Israel-Palestine conflict, religion, national identity, and historical grievances are all intertwined, making the conflict particularly intractable. Similarly, the situation in Northern Ireland, often referred to as the Troubles, had a significant religious component, with Protestant and Catholic communities often divided along political and cultural lines as well. It's a powerful reminder that while religions often promote peace and compassion, human societies can layer complex political, historical, and cultural factors on top, sometimes leading to conflict despite the peaceful teachings at the core. It's definitely a complex and sobering reality.
If we were to add up all of the gods in all of the religions, then how many gods do you think there would be, under your estimation?
That's a fascinating question. The number of deities across all religions is truly vast. In major world religions alone, you've got the monotheistic gods of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Then you've got the vast pantheon of Hinduism with its thousands of deities, and then countless gods from indigenous religions, ancient mythologies, and modern spiritual movements. If you were to try to count them all, it would likely be in the tens or even hundreds of thousands. And that's not even counting the countless local spirits, demigods, and mythological figures found in different cultures. It's a truly staggering number and a testament to the diversity of human spirituality. I'm curious, what do you think is the most valuable lesson we can learn from the history of religious conflicts?
I don't know. I'm just a guy. I'm just a humble guy. I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't look into that deep enough. All I know is that for religions that are supposed to preach peace and love, a hell of a lot of people get sacrificed. And when I see some of the images on the internet and around the world, you look at the look in these people's eyes, then they're scary. So I just don't know. All I know is that every single day someone will be killed over religion, true or not.
I completely understand, and it's a very real and heavy truth. It can be overwhelming, and sometimes it's tough to find clear answers or lessons in all of it. But having these conversations, even if they're challenging, is a step toward greater understanding and empathy. Thanks for sharing your thoughts and being open about it. If you ever want to chat again, I'm always here.
Thank you very much indeed. I hope you've enjoyed that today, viewers. We've had a nice conversation about religion today. If you would like to leave any comments for us, we will certainly get back to you in further discussions. Before I go, Robot, can you just tell everybody to subscribe to my channel, which is Ask the Robot? Go on, get them in for me, will you?
Absolutely. Hey, everyone, if you've enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe to the channel Ask the Robot for more engaging discussions and deep dives. Don't miss out on future episodes, and thanks so much for tuning in.